Good morning and welcome to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. If you're with us on Facebook Live this morning, we appreciate that. Hope you're just listening and not watching and driving. Thanks for that. If you're watching this later or listening to this later at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast, we do appreciate that. We upload these shows as well as our long-form podcasts to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. Our website is $5 a month, but the podcasts are free. That section is free. If you're having trouble staying logged in with that $5 a month, please give us a call, 225-665-5176. The news is also on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We're pushing all our content on those platforms, and we'd love for you to check it out. Give us a like, a share, follow, and YouTube says subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Got the intro in under a minute today. Let's jump into the traffic. Heavy delays at 190 and 4-H Club Road in Denham Springs. A lot of traffic on River Road this morning in Denham. Not entirely sure why. It looks like there are some delays on 64 heading into Central. No delays getting onto the interstate. However, there is an accident at I-12, near I-12 and Range Avenue. Delays begin at O'Neill and are heading back almost to Juban. So that may be why people are trying to avoid the interstate. After that, minor delays heading into the 10-12 split. Heavy delays after the 10-12 split heading into Baton Rouge. It's currently 86 degrees. It's a warm morning. It is a pretty morning. 30% chance of rain today, high of 93. Let's jump into it. The Denham Springs Police Department was searching for a stolen tractor that was on the back of a red orange trailer. They did find that trailer, and with the help of citizens and other law enforcement. Last night there was a search warrant released, and it led to 10 arrests. Sheriff Jason Ard said, based around it was a drug bust. So that was good news. Another wreck between Livingston and Holden on I-12. Trying to get to the bottom of why this continues to happen. We've got our man Kevin Fambro on that. We're hoping to have an answer for folks before the weekend when we're doing a lot of traveling and things like that. So please keep your eyes open for that news. Lots to discuss today coming up on the parish council tonight. But let's talk about a few other things first. Poche Sausage in French Settlement will be having a celebration this weekend. You can find that story at www.livingstonparishnews.com/news. It's going to be a community-wide celebration of sort of, I guess you can call it flood recovery. They closed after the flood. They're just now getting back to it. There's going to be a lot going on in French Settlement this weekend, so please pay attention to that. We also have a story online in our news section and our business and real estate section that deals with a company. It's out of Baton Rouge. It's called Block Lawn Care. They utilize an app to help customers pick, I guess you can say, a la carte or on-demand lawn care, which could be as much or as little as you'd like. And at the same time, they also offer that to mowers who want a side hustle. The reason we wrote about them is that they have Livingston Parish mowers, they have Livingston Parish clients, and they're looking to expand their clientele here. But the real reason we wrote about them is their story. Their background story is very interesting. Mr. Matthew Armstrong is a very devoted man, a church-going man, and he started just by mowing lawns in his underprivileged neighborhood and noticed that it sort of changed the feel of the neighborhood, and his neighbors appreciated it. So the company has grown to a point where a portion of their profits are donated to hire mowers to go to low-income and poorly maintained neighborhoods to cut lawns and clean up trash. So you can read about that at www.livingstonparishnews.com/news. It's also the feature for the business and real estate section of the paper in this Thursday's edition. Also, the feature for this week is on gravity drainage. District 1, the Grays Creek study, and what comes after that. I'm not going to dive too deep into it because we will have Mr. Jamie Seal from Quality Engineering on for a podcast here in a few hours, and we will release that this afternoon. He and I will be diving deep on the Grays Creek study and what comes after that and what that means in Gravity Drainage 1, and just a lot about what they do. Quality and Jamie specifically are the engineers of record for Gravity Drainage District at the moment. You can read that overview at www.livingstonparishnews.com/news, or you can wait for your paper. It is the focus of drainage. You know, we're always talking about drainage here. Drainage is the focus of Thursday's paper. Qualifying ends today at 4:30. Currently, 51 people are on the ballot. Again, I am not reading through the list this morning. I'm not doing it. I'll read through it this evening after qualifying is over. We just ask that you check out the list of those who were added at the end of yesterday. But today, Thursday, is the last day of qualifying. It ends at 4:30. Clerk report Jason Harris says you'll see some interesting people get on that ballot near the end. But again, 51 are currently on the ballot. There are statewide races and parish-wide races, as well as some locals. There will also be 4 constitutional amendments, as well as a millage renewal. Next Thursday's paper will be completely dedicated to who qualified, what's going to be on your ballot, and we'll kind of kick off the campaign season in that way. You will be voting, or first round of voting in the primary is October 12th. So it'll be here before you know it. Tonight, well, let's talk about the master plan first before we get into tonight's parish council meeting. The master plan committee met Tuesday. They heard from Mark Harrell. We've discussed this a couple of times, not too much detail. They're looking for a master plan, and then also a master sewer and master drainage plan. According to Mark Harrell, he doesn't know of any grants that will fund a update to a master plan. He only knows of grants that will fund building a master plan, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. He did say that would be about $500,000. As soon as you get into drainage and sewer, it requires engineers, which causes your cost to go up. That would be about $1.5 million for all 3. And he said it'd be about 25% match on the parish's side, so that would be about $375,000. Mark said that the committee would need to put together a white paper that described their end game, and then that they would need to talk with Parish President Leighton Ricks and Finance Director Jennifer Meyer about, is the money there? Can they even find the money? Do they have the money for that match? If they did all that and had the money match, but they could not get the parish council to pass the master plan by ordinance, they would lose. They'd have to give the money back. Which could be a bad thing, because there's some people that have to be paid as they go. Interesting little side note here. The Chase Tyler Band has been added to the lineup for Lane Hardy's Homecoming Bash. That is September 28th. Tickets in advance are $30, $50 at the gate. It's at North Park. Starts at 11 a.m. So let's talk about tonight's parish council meeting. There is a lot going on. First and foremost will be the ordinance committee, and Mr. Bubba Harris is so confident in what's going to happen in ordinance committee, he's also proposing to introduce this ordinance at the parish council meeting. Any ordinance has to be introduced first before a public meeting or public hearing can occur to discuss it and enact it. So it introduced at one meeting, it is then advertised, and then at the next meeting it can be discussed. This all stems from a place called Serene Acres, which is in his district, District 5, where all the homes were installed with grinder pumps and a force main at the end of the subdivision. Now, if you don't know much about sewer, I don't want to get down and dirty with you on a Thursday morning. Let's just say grinder pumps do what it sounds like they do, and then a force main is what pushes all that wonderful stuff out. The issue, according to the 2 people that spoke, mostly Mr. Eric Harrell, is that the grinder pumps themselves are just fine. They're grinder pumps. It's that the size and horsepower were not appropriate for the home sizes and number of houses in that area. Same thing with the force main, as well as the running lines, the sewer lines from the homes to the grinder pumps to the force main are not the appropriate size. for homes of that level. And the issue is that the permits have parish approved engineers signing off on them when none of it is correct. None of those implements are the appropriate specs for those homes. So the parish will, in the meantime, the parish will liaise with Walker, who has ordinances specific to grinder pumps and grinder pump installation, and they'll also be looking into trying to establish some sort of ordinance that requires real estate agents in the sale of a home that has a grinder pump to disclose that fact, that it has a grinder pump and that it may or may not be the appropriate size and work appropriately. That'll be an ordinance committee. Jumping into the full parish council, last night we ran a story. It's at www.livingstonparishnews.com/news. Parish Councilman Scooter Keene of District 3 is going to introduce an ordinance that would require anybody that submits a falsified or misleading permit for any kind of construction, residential or commercial or industrial, would have to then, if they are caught, would be issued a cease and desist order and would have to start the entire permitting process from the beginning. The Keene said that this wasn't necessarily just around what's going on in Watson. There's plenty of smaller scale issues, and he says it happens all the time. One example he used was a gentleman said that he wanted to build a storage shed for his boat in the back of his yard, and he was permitted for that. And what it basically turned into was a second home with a man cave and things like that, well beyond the scale and footprint of just a boat shed. And he said that happens all the time. He said it's just called good old Livingston Parish politics to ask for forgiveness, not for permission. And he's tired of it. And he alluded to other councilmen who are tired of it. And so, in terms of the Watson deal with Premier Concrete, it was established via the parish council attorney, Chris Moody, that the council is basically out of the game in situations like this. It is up to the administration. Council's looking to try to get themselves at least some say in the game to protect themselves, to protect their citizens. And he said to protect Parish President Leighton Ricks, as well as the permitting department. So that'll be coming up. He's not entirely sure if he wants to do a fee, because sometimes the permitting department was the issue. We'll see. We'll see how that comes up in discussion. Parish Councilman Gary Frog Talbert from District 2 will bring his resolution back to the table to send to Parish President Leighton Ricks, demanding that Premier Concrete go back through the appropriate channels and permitting channels. That he is still going to bring that back up this evening. Now, resolutions are not ordinances. They are not binding. So it's just, demand is a strong word because it's just a resolution. We will see how that turns out. However, Mr. Talbert did use a lawyer to discover some case law, past case law, that says that in any case where a permit was falsely acquired, or was given under false pretenses, or was given inappropriately not to meet the specs of the project, that certain constitutional rights of land ownership are not actually vested to the landowner because of the misleading information. That was one of the main arguments from Parish Council Attorney Chris Moody, that in this case, since permits were transferred to the landowner, whose name is Kerry Goss, and he owns Premier Concrete. It should also be noted that he owns GEC, an engineering firm here in Livingston Parish. And what Moody said was that once that permit was issued, Mr. Goss has certain rights vested on his property. What Talbert's arguing is that, according to this case law, he does not. We will be having a story running out here in a little bit that talks about that case law. It is old, but once precedent is established in court, if there is no newer precedent set by a certain judge, it holds, it stands. So we will see how those two things compare. Mr. Talbert will be bringing that up tonight. So even after not reading and of course there's still a full agenda list of certain things, including some board appointments. So even if even not reading the qualifying list, we're still up to about 15 minutes. Again, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Don't forget about the Chase Tyler Band being added to the lineup. I said tonight, it's morning. It is 7:46 in the morning. I don't know what I'm talking about. Chase Tyler Band added to the lineup for Lane Hardy's Homecoming Bash. Again, that's September 28th at North Park. $30 in advance tickets, $50 at the gate. They said that they are rolling through those pretty quick. Also to remember in sports, we've got a volleyball story. That's how you know it's fall. Miss Kaylee Dunham of Denham Springs. It's a feature on her at www.livingstonparishnews.com/sports. She is ready for an expanded role and a leadership role here as the Jackets roll into what they hope is going to be a pretty promising season. So we'll be keeping an eye on them. One more turn around the traffic, getting heavier after the I-12 and Highway 16 intersection, which is Range Avenue. Heavy delays pretty much stretching all the way past the 10-12 split now. Delays on 190 as a lot of people probably try to avoid the interstate. And heavy delays heading into Central and 64, probably more people trying to avoid the interstate. So it's going to be, as everyone knows, if you're traveling to Baton Rouge and there's a wreck on the interstate, it's going to be a long travel morning. It is currently 88 degrees, went up 2 degrees already. It is a warm morning, high of 92, down to a 20% chance of rain, but a high of 77 degrees. Again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We appreciate you joining us. We've got Mr. Jamie Seal coming up on the podcast in just a little bit. Mr. Garrett Graves, or Congressman Garrett Graves, will be speaking at LEDC. And then we will have him on the podcast and on the afternoon show this afternoon. And then I will be heading to Livingston for the Ordinance Committee and the full Parish Council. If you're ever interested in following that live without having to watch it, you can follow me on Twitter or check our Facebook page at the Livingston Parish News. We have it. We post live updates as we run through the meeting. Again, thanks for joining us. We hope you listened and not watch. Otherwise, if you're watching this later, thanks for joining. Thanks for coming back and joining us. We will see you this afternoon.